to Battlehosts. Be a better gamer, build a better community.
Welcome to Battlehosts, a podcast website dedicated to helping you become a better 40K gamer and to build a better community of players. I'm your host, Mark, and I have some special guests with me tonight. I have Colin, who you've heard before.
Hello.
I have Jody.
Hey, what's happening, everybody?
And I have Brian.
Howdy, hey.
And you've heard Brian before. We've had him as a guest on Splinter Mine. Jody, we have not had you on the show before. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, it all started. No.
Yeah.
I'm a longtime gamer, kind of coming into my grognardness, I guess, like old guy, been
Nice.
at it way too long. On the Independent Characters podcast quite a bit now.
Cool.
Let me see. Topical of the moment was heavy into competitive play in 5th ed, and then have stepped aggressively away from that, but figured if I'm going to have an opinion, I should test it. So here I am for the Boise Cup.
All right. So you played competitive in 5th.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
was
happened?
Orcs mainly. Oh, it was great. It was fun. The area I was in had a thriving local community. We were regularly having 50 to 80 person tournaments, like once a month.
Nice. Okay.
And for 2 or 3 years was in that scene, and then in the Bay Area a little bit, and Orcs were pretty good then. And that's why I have very excited about my Apocalypse-sized Orc army that now has a reason to play Apocalypse. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was that, even though, thanks to Brian, I am definitely not playing my Orcs in 40K anytime soon. So
Mark's also very excited about Apocalypse.
yeah.
So this is a side tangent. We haven't even talked about other stuff, but I am excited about APOC.
Yeah.
I'm legit, it's a whole new system grafted onto the same models I own. It's like a whole new game.
Yeah.
It's like a brand new game with the same stuff I already own. What's not to like?
And you get to bring out some big toys
Yeah.
just to play.
Yeah. I have all this Eldar that I am not playing right now. I'd love to bring it back out.
Yeah. No, and it seems to me, one of my early loves of 40K, was Space Marine, which was Epic 40,000 before.
Yeah.
I loved that rule set. And there's a lot of elements, in the teaser information they've put forward that are borrowing heavily from that. So I went, man, if you're using that rules feel with all my existing toys,
Well, when you think about it too, I mean, you're using that basic, when you were playing Epic, you had a 6x4, right?
Yeah.
So you had a 6x4 and the models are a lot smaller. So if you're using the same rule set, when they say you're going to have a 2-3 hour game, I fully believe it.
Yeah, things go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Although some of the mechanics are interesting. So alternating activations is essentially what they have. And they also, by detachment, but the damage phase all at once is like, okay, that's really cool. Because every model is going to get at least to shoot once or do something once. So anyways, I digress. Epic.
My fault.
APOC's excited. I'm super excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you like it, cheers. Subscribe to us on iTunes to catch all the latest episodes. You can also follow us on Facebook under the Battlehosts. If you like to support the Battlehosts for as little as $1 a month, visit patreon.com/Battlehosts. And if you join for $3 a month, you get access to our Discord chat. We discuss all things related to the hobby. Now, in this episode, you guys are all here for the Boise Cup.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is cool. So
It's tomorrow, right?
Yeah. We are talking about breaking out of a 40K hobby slump. And actually, this was timely because Colin and I were sort of feeling that recently.
Yeah.
No matter how engaged you are with a hobby, there's going to be times when you kind of lose your motivation or desire to just play or to paint or just to engage with the community. I mean, sometimes people in the community get kind of obnoxious and you just want to take a step back from that. You might just get tired of one part of the hobby. Sometimes you just want to take a break from 40K completely. But that's really what this episode is about, is kind of recognizing that, kind of breaking out of that. You know, life happens. Brian, famously, you don't have much time. You don't have any free time.
This is true. This is true.
And so we get distracted, we get busy, but there's, oftentimes 40K takes a back seat, but, it's a hobby. It's supposed to be enjoyable. You're supposed to enjoy this stuff. So what we mean by slump is when, you have the time, you just don't feel motivated to do something. Maybe you just don't feel motivated to paint or play, or just 40K is just not doing it for you for some reason. With that definition in mind and kind of what we're talking about, hobby stuff, we're going to just talk about our experiences and kind of what you can do to start enjoying 40K again. And reading a Aaron Dembski Bowden novel is usually it's a good start. It's a good start.
Yeah.
It is a good start. Like Space Marines to me are not as super interesting. And then Colin, you let me borrow the Emperor's Spear book. And oh man, that's a good book.
It really, really, really good. Looking forward to the sequel. Already trying to figure out where I want to start my Emperor's Spear's army. So that'll break you out of a slump pretty quick.
Yeah, that kind of stuff definitely happens. But before we jump into it, let's hear a word from our sponsor, DGT.
Playing a tabletop game at a casual pace can be fun, but running out of time and not getting your fair share is not. Playing with a game timer is the best way to speed up your play and make sure everyone gets an equal amount of game time. Check out the Easy Game Timer from DGT. It's a perfect solution for tabletop miniature games with a large lever for quickly changing turns and a clear digital readout. It's simple to set up and customize, and your settings are saved when it's turned off. It's the most affordable and high-quality game timer on the market and is officially sanctioned by the International Chess Federation. The DGT Easy Game Timer is available from many online retailers. Wholesale pricing is also available for tournament organizers. Visit dgtnorthamerica.com to learn more. Speed up your game and improve your play with the Easy Game Timer from DGT.
Let's talk about our experiences as a hobby slump. Now, let's just go around the table. And Brian, we'll talk about the topic for the show. You're saying you're just kind of coming out of one. Kind of tell us a little bit about it.
Wow. So when you alluded to earlier not having time, I have a 15-month-old and a kid who's going to be 4 in a few weeks, and then teacher on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was talking about the slump bit, there was a commission that I'd gotten in November for a Custodes army, which normally on paper you look at it, you're like, this is going to be the easiest thing in the world.
Sure.
There were some conversions that I wasn't familiar with the model, so there were some conversions that made sense on paper. But then once I got it, I was like, there are a lot of problems with this thing. What I really ran into with that is that when I realized I was in a slump was that I would look at that stuff and not even know where to start. Yeah. And normally for me, I'm kind of a streaky guy when it comes to hobby stuff, but when I these guys watch me today. Like when I lock in, it's done. I'm just go. I just sort of on autopilot. And this commission actually sat there all the way until now. Like, it'll be completed the week that I get back. But thankfully, Tony, I don't know if he listens to the show or not. Lives in Texas, but he's from Idaho. But he's been very patient through the whole thing. And now that he's seeing this stuff, he's like, my God, this looks amazing. Yeah. But I would look at these models and just not even know. So for me, you're in a slump when you look at models and you can't even process what you're going to do. Yeah. When you have a process set for everything, like, if I want a gold, I do this. I want, those types of things. So that's once school ended and there was sort of a little bit of quiet and, when the kids would go off to daycare and things like that, when I would sit down and then all of a sudden you realize you're on autopilot. You're not even thinking and stuff's just flowing. Yeah. That's when you're out of it. So, but it was a 6 month rough stretch. It's probably the roughest hobby stretch I've had.
Yeah, and that's tough too. If you're commission painting, essentially your hobby is your job, is a job. Yeah, it's hard, right? I've heard you shouldn't make your hobby your job because sometimes you can lose some of the fun of the actual hobby itself. But how are you able to kind of balance that? It sounds like it was really difficult for a while there.
It's called bills. Living in one of the most expensive areas in the country will help you sort of. Are you talking about the hobby slump or commission painting?
Commission painting.
That's a motivator.
Yeah, fear is a powerful motivator.
That's true. That's true. Being evicted or losing your house, I imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my motivation for it.
Nice. All right. We're going to jump over to Jody.
So I think for like a time I had a hobby slump because as you said, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. You're going to run into points where you're just burned out. I think an almost predictable one for me is after and I use this term lightly because I am not a build a list, paint a list done with an army person by any stretch. It is a rambling adventure forever. But when you have that initial excitement, and for me, and I think Colin, you're kind of similar, you get that initial excitement of the army, and if it gets past sprue stage and onto paint stage, then the army starts coming to life, and you get to that point where you can play with it, and you go, oh, I got to see the army I had in my mind on the tabletop, and that's like this very exciting moment. But then once that's kind of squared away, and you go, okay, what's next? It's like I equate it almost to the kid in the cereal aisle, and when I was a kid, my mom was Rice Krispies, Cheerios, or, Corn Flakes. And you couldn't have any of that rotten sugar cereal. But once in a while, her whatever would give in and she'd be like, okay, you can pick whatever you want. And she'd go do her grocery shopping and I'd just stand there like overwhelmed. It was literally the kid in the candy aisle, except it was cereal for me. And I'm just, oh my gosh, I could have anything. And I could have the leprechaun kid or the tiger or the frog. Why is there a frog? I don't know. It's awesome. And it ends up being like that. You're just so overwhelmed for choice and then that notion of going back to square one is also really daunting.
That's true.
I have a painted army and now I'm going to create gray plastic. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like it's really hard, especially if you're going to transition from one army to the next.
It's a brand new color scheme or whatever. It's a whole new thing. Yeah.
And if you don't have that creative fire behind it, it can be really, really daunting. I know when I finished my first I finished my Tyranid army, there was a long gap between that and starting what ultimately was an Imperial Guard army that I did, and then sold that. And there was a pretty long gap there of not being entirely sure of, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And it was, and there's some ways to break out of that, but when the muse fades, especially when you've been doing something that was kind of the new and sparkly and shiny, and then you got to transition back to the grind part. Brian and I were just talking on the drive out here about so many things, but
it's a long drive.
We had some time.
Oh yeah.
But just the assembly grind is, as people who don't enjoy the assembly phase,
right,
that going back from I'm doing cool conversions and paintings and finishing off the really fun stuff in the army to let me start doing basic assembly work on a huge scale. Ugh.
Yeah. And when you get inspired by a project, and especially if, like you said, it's a brand new army, if you've done really well in the past, you want to make sure that, so if you have some army that people go, wow, that looks great, you want your next army to be different enough to be different, but also to get the same reaction, right? You want to have that same feeling when you look at it. So, especially if it's a completely new color or a new scheme or a conversion thing, and you have this idea, you could get halfway through a project and just go, yeah, okay, this is too much. Like Colin, you have started and stopped multiple projects because for some reason you didn't get past that build stage.
Right.
But once you get past it and you paint it, that's great. But you're right. I mean, once you're done with that, you're like, all right, what's my next thing? All right, I've got to figure this out all over again.
Right.
Yeah.
And the pressure of meeting that expectation, can be pretty daunting.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm working on Terian right now.
You're welcome.
He was finished like 6 months ago.
He looks great both times.
Yeah.
But,
So, why are you working on Terian exactly?
Well, just to kind of bring him in line with the rest of the list. The list is so vibrant with Magnus and the Bloodthirsters and the Plague Bearers. Like, there's just so much color, which is more my style.
Yeah.
When I originally painted Terian, I was trying to break out of a slump by painting in a different, kind of just trying a different thing, trying more desaturated colors and more natural colors. And that's part of how I break out of a slump, is I'm trying new things or try new techniques but when I put him on the board next to 60 other vibrantly painted models, he was just like, he
was more of that realistic look to him. So
he just faded. It was just not. There was no part of it that jumped out at you.
Yeah.
And for the second biggest and most imposing model in the army, you wanted to pop, but you also wanted to blend. And the point that Jody made was, if you did this and this, it would bring him in line with the Plague Bearers, and it would kind of integrate them into it. So I've been through a couple hobby slumps recently, a painting slump and a gaming slump, and that you alluded to kind of our gaming slump where, grinding between, for you, I guess, LVO.
Yeah.
And for me, kind of post-Harvester, a couple RTTs, locally, like beginning of the year, and trying to figure out I was playing Tzeentch Demons in Thousand Suns last year, and then through Harvester added Magnus, and then I was playing Magnus and Morty for Iron Man.
Yeah.
And did well at Iron Man. And then kept trying to play them through the RTTs, and then didn't.
Once you stopped having success,
It wasn't working, and I was like, And I've been playing it for a long time, and there's a ton of psychic powers and all this stuff. And so I was like, well, and so then I went on BCP and was looking at lists and trying to figure out, and then I was playing TJ's list, and I was like looking at Jim's list, and I'm like, it's a lot of Plague Bearers and a lot of support characters and it's a super defensive list.
Yeah.
And I'm grinding this list like 6, 7, 8 games, and I'm just hating it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I do not want to play.
Because you're playing a list that other people have had success. So first of all, backing up, we're talking playing competitively.
Yes.
And competitive can be a grind.
Right. And I never set out to start. I've never started an army for a competitive reason.
Yeah.
I've always started an army because I think it would look cool.
Sure.
And I think it would be fun to play. And for me, I'm a painter and modeler first.
Yeah.
Mostly I'm a painter first.
Yeah.
Then a modeler, and then, playing.
Yeah.
So if it's going to look cool visually, and then playing competitively in the last year since last Boise Cup, that's another added element to it, but I'm still not going to put a unit on the table that I don't want to paint.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was finding these lists and playing these lists.
And then keep searching for this new unit to try, this other unit to try, this other piece to try.
Like, how do these work? And am I playing it right? And blah. And I just hated the list. I hated these lists. I was like, I hate this list. I hate playing this army.
Yeah.
And I'm losing all the time.
Yeah.
Like, this is just awful.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what don't I like about this list? Like, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't, it doesn't project anything. There's very little interaction. It's mostly movement and like some shenanigans, and it just doesn't die.
Yeah.
So I said, well, what? So I took a step back and like, kind of kill the golden calf kind of thing where you're like, okay, do I have to, are any of these units in here things that I, need to play with? No.
Yeah.
So if I were to make a list, what would be the most fun thing to do? What do you enjoy doing most? I love throwing Magnus and Morty at people.
Yeah.
Love it. It's super fun. Just like, smack you in the face and see what happens. So that is the most fun part of the hobby I've had in the last year, gaming wise, is like charging up the field and whacking things in close combat.
Yeah.
And so, okay, well, how can I double down on that?
Yeah.
I'll add a Bloodthirster or two.
Yeah.
They're good for that.
They are good for that. Yeah.
So an added Bloodthirster, and I was going to do Shalaxi, but ended up doing Scarbrand instead. But, and then I was like, okay, well, to make this a competitive list, then I added it back in the Plague Bearers and the Nurglings, and I came up with my Boise Cup list, and it's pretty good.
Yeah. I'd say so.
It's not bad.
And it's also, it's basically, it did. Yeah.
But,
you took a list that you knew was competitive because people have won with it, but it wasn't your style.
No.
And you sort of dialed back and said, okay, here's my new style.
Well, instead of asking myself, like, where can I find a list that will win games?
Yeah.
I asked myself, what do I like doing?
Yeah. Because if you're not enjoying the game. I like
charging things in close combat and whacking them in the head.
Yeah.
And I don't have the time and resources to paint a Bloodletter Bomb and some, chaos, some Lord Discordance, and like, I don't have time to make like half a new army.
Yeah.
So what can I do with what I have, and then maybe sprinkle in a couple pieces that I can paint, and came up with this Monster Mash list.
Yeah.
And it's great. I have a few psychic powers. They only go one direction. I don't have to keep track of anything.
You've made it
I don't
simpler.
have to screen for anything.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have to make any decisions. I just like, where did you deploy? Over there. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to hit you in the face with an axe.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll see where the chips fall.
Sometimes it's okay to be simple about these things, for sure.
Yeah, because I was just burning it. I mean, I was just burning out the brain on the competitive side, and it was affecting my painting because I just didn't want to paint anything for the army.
Yeah,
because I didn't know if it was going to stay in the list, or if it was going to be an 8-man unit, or if it was going to be a 10-man unit.
That's painting for playing versus painting for things you enjoy. And when you start to get into the mode of like, every unit I paint has to be something that I'm going to put on the table, and when you play competitive, has to be something I'm going to put on the table that's going to be competitive. With the pace of change that comes out, that thing, by the time you get it painted, it could be 3 months later. You can have FAQ change, and boom, it's gone.
Right.
So chasing competitive is tricky. I was playing Michael. It's always Michael Snyder with his Genestealer cult, and he's going through all the different detachments, and he goes, "Oh, this is mixed. It's got this. It's got that. This is, and it's a new army. I've never looked at the codex, and my eyes glazed over, and he just waxed me, and I just said, I have to study this army. I don't want to. This feels like homework now, and I don't know. It just hit me all at once, like, I'm just tired of having to read up on every single thing. So it happens. I mean, I think everyone just at some point just wants to take a bit of a break from the competitive scene and kind of just let things set. Now, most of the time I like to stay up on it, but at this point in time, like it was just after LVO. It was just kind of just playing around. I really was just kind of going through the motion, just having a good time at League, but it struck me how much I didn't know about this one army and how much I had to learn. And so we were talking, and I said, that Age of Sigmar box set with the Sylvaneth and the Gloomspire Gits was really cool. And you're like, oh, I can get it. And I'm like, yeah, why don't you get that? So now we have this sort of Age of Sigmar thing that we're going to do. And the great thing about that is I don't know what is a good list in Age of Sigmar.
Nope.
I've never played it. You
No
don't
clue.
know. We're
Don't
not going to
know.
We have decided we're not going to net list. We're
Yeah.
just going to play and figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like taking a game that I know it's been out there and we could do more for it. But if it's just the two of us or just a handful of us, then it's like going back to when you were a high schooler and your friend and you got like split a box set and you're just
Right.
learning what's good.
Mhm.
The same
Right.
time, you're not having to worry about what other people are doing or having
Right.
to worry about other stuff.
Like Leo came up and said, "Oh, you're going to play Gloomspite? I can give you the lowdown on what's good." I said, "Don't you dare!"
I don't want to know.
Like,
I'll
I don't
figure
want
it
to
out.
know, man. I just want to play. I just want to put some squigs on the table,
Yeah.
bounce around, whack some stuff.
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
be happy.
Well, I was going to say, before we jump into like how to fix a painting
Yeah.
slump or a hobby
Yeah.
slump or
Yeah.
whatever, I mean, this is like Captain Obvious material
Sure.
here, but the easiest slump to fix is the one that you don't start.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
like in your case, you have to understand how you're motivated,
Right.
as a hobbyist, as a gamer, whatever the deal
That's
is.
a good point. Yeah.
And it's all about internal versus external motivation.
Yeah.
And for like in your situation, you were talking about making a list that didn't suit the way you like to play.
Right.
But you're like, oh, other thing. And so your motivation was external. It's like,
Right.
well, I want to win. I'm going to do these other ways to do it
Mhm.
versus I'm not a competitive player,
Right.
but in my head, I would rather lose the game playing the style that I want to play
Yeah.
than to have hollow wins.
Yeah.
where it's
Well,
like, look,
you
my
can
result
enjoy
is
it.
this, and that's great.
You can enjoy it because you're playing a list that's fun, that speaks to
Right.
you, that you enjoy
Yeah.
playing. You're not grinding on this list, and so you lose a game. You lose
Yeah.
a game. But if you're playing,
A unit that I have to paint because somehow it's going to do a thing for me that I don't enjoy doing is
Yeah.
the one that is going to take the longest to paint.
Yeah.
And I'm
That's a
going
good
to
point.
hate
Yeah.
grind in my head the entire time.
Yeah.
And even
Like,
when it's
I
done,
know this-
you're not going to be happy with it.
Yeah.
Well, it's just
Yeah.
not going to look as good.
No.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as well painted. And one of the things that is always surprising to me, and I don't know why it continues to be surprising, is how much more efficiently I paint my own stuff than I paint my commission stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm just motivated by money, basically, to do commissions at this point.
Right.
And so I just keep, I have my processes and I work through my processes. I don't expand my skill base at all. I'm not trying to get fancy. I'm not trying to get too involved. I'm just trying to get
It's
into a
craftsmanship.
good
It's not
stance.
artistry, right? You're
Right.
it's a craft. You're like a carpenter that's putting out
Yeah.
things.
So, but then when I get to go do my own thing and I get to play around a little bit, it's like, boom, like 50 guys in 8.5 days
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever. It's just like, it's fun.
Yeah.
So,
I think you made a good point, though, Brian, is that you have to really know what it is about your. If you start to stretch outside of the things you enjoy, that's when 40K becomes more of a job or more work.
Yeah.
And so, regardless of whatever that outcome might be, maybe you're going to win something, for example. But if you're not enjoying it, then it's just not fun. Now, there are some people that they just enjoy winning. So
Right.
winning is fun to
Yeah.
them,
Right.
and that's what they do. And the models are really just pieces. They're not. They're just chess pieces at that point, and that's okay. They paint to a certain tournament standard and they play, but because they get the most enjoyment out of playing the game.
right.
But some of those types of people, they get burned out just as like anyone else, except they're burned out on playing the game versus painting.
Right.
So,
Well, I think we're all more hobby centric
yeah.
people than, certainly more than your average tournament player, I'd say. We put more
yeah.
emphasis on the hobby side. So like getting into a gaming slump isn't that big of a deal for me because I'll just not play or I'll
You'll
play
switch.
something silly or,
Yeah.
but getting into a painting slump is like
Yeah.
really, it really sucks.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So, I mean, there are some dedicated painters of 40K. They go out and they paint. They love, that's what they do. I don't know any. Like, I don't know any that don't game with their gaming pieces. Like, not that I've never met somebody that is just a strict painter. I mean, obviously they exist, but
Right.
but sometimes you just get kind of tired of painting, and you can have, oddly enough, having an event like the Boise Cup. Brian, you drove down and you had was it half finished maybe? Like you said, you came in and you said, I got the most painting done today because it was like a dedicated, focused.
Yeah.
Boom, no distractions. You're just going to do it. So sometimes an event will motivate you to sort of get through some things, but having a goal is really nice. But sometimes there's just like, you don't really have, like you get tired of it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're painting big batches of things.
Yeah.
So I remember I painted, this is for one of the Las Vegas Opens when I played a friendly event. I painted 30 Guardians in about a week, and I batch painted them all. And I'm not an efficient painter, unlike you, Colin. And so I was like, by that 30th Guardian, I was like, I don't want to ever paint these stupid Guardians. And Guardians they're terrible models because they have mold lines all over the place. They take forever to clean up. They suck. But I just felt like I was doing it to get it done. But when I was done, I'm like, I don't want to paint anything else ever again for a while. So we talk about some of your painting slumps. What's when you've gotten just tired of painting?
So the funny thing is when you're talking about the deadline thing, I did preparation for this thing. I did a couple of episodes. I did a lot of thinking on it. 2 days ago, I was sitting at my desk looking at my stuff going, if I just break my airbrush out, I've got, 3 hours before I have to pick up my kids. I got to do X, Y, and Z. And I looked at it and it was like, man, it was just like Atlas shrugged. Just to drop it off. And I realized what my slump had been caused by and why I couldn't paint my own stuff and enjoy it was that with having small kids and, commission deadlines and a bunch of other things, Boise Cup had become its own deadline. Yeah. And so it's like a weird, like almost unhealthy thing where, I'm going to have like a whatever so I can have control over something. I was like, I'm going to paint these 4 Poxwalkers because I don't have to. Yeah. And I enjoyed the hell out of it. And that actually was what helped spark me wanting to actually paint my own stuff. I know it's like stressing people out. I was like posting pictures of it and I was like, my stuff's like nowhere close to done. But then when we got here,
Mark and I discussed.
He's like, is that a Poxwalker? The beauty of the irony of that, it really spoke to me. So I was on the other end of the spectrum. If you guys are like, why the heck's he fight? Yeah. And when I saw it, I knew, my first reaction was like your guys of like Poxwalkers, but it was because Brian and I have talked a ton about, we both, I think, is it fair to say we both hate that unit for a variety of reasons?
Absolutely.
You hate the Poxwalker, playing it or painting it?
I hate the army.
I haven't painted it.
I hate the army, but in that army, the one unit that I'm like, this is just absolutely no fun for either you or your opponent. It's just to have this cheap, overly efficient unit that it doesn't do a damn thing. It just doesn't die.
You love my Plague Bearers.
They're worse. Yeah.
I've played against both and I would much rather fight against Plague Bearers, but this gets into like fluffy narrative reasons. Yeah. So when I saw it, my first thought was like, but he hates this unit. And then I was like, but that means it doesn't matter at all. It was the Meatballs Bill Murray throwback old movie reference here. Yeah. It just doesn't matter. Yeah. It just doesn't matter. And I once I saw it, I was like, what's he do? Oh. Yeah. And I went, I know what he's doing. It just doesn't.
It's just understanding what motivates you and also what demotivates you. Right. And what is the crushing thing that I've had is just, I've had a series, and also as a teacher, I just wrapped up a teaching year. Yeah. It's just a death by a million deadlines. Yeah. And things you have to do. And originally I thought, working towards a goal will be the thing that works my way out of the slump. And it wasn't. It was actually clearing the deck and just saying, this is done. And then today, what really helped was, I love my family, but not having the constant, am I going to have to change the diapers or a thing going on? I was able to just lock in and I felt bad. These guys are like having a conversation. We haven't seen Colin in person in a year. Yeah. And I was like, no, guys, trust me. I'm listening to everything you're saying. I just can't chew gum and walk at the same time. I'm just like locked in.
Yeah, but you were all but like humming a jaunty tune to yourself while you sat there brushing, painting, and whatever.
Yeah, meanwhile, Jody's throwing me into palette anxiety over a model that's been finished for months.
If I can't make you paint chaos, then I have no purpose.
He's just sitting there. You guy doesn't have anything to paint, doesn't have anything to tinker.
I got my stuff done.
Well, Terian was done.
Yeah, and that's a rookie move. Have you noticed how many times I've asked you guys, like, what do you think I should do with this thing?
I didn't ask.
No, I got a process. Yeah. So, in other words, the painting the Poxwalkers was just a way, is like a palette cleanser. It was kind of like, I'm just going to throw some paint on this model. I don't really care if it looks that great. I'm just going to try it just to mess with it, just to see. Was it just a way to sort of, I want to do something that doesn't matter, therefore, like what's the
realized
switch there?
Probably 30 minutes into it that I was actively exerting control over a deadline. When I really don't have controls. It just gave me like the illusion of control. Sure. It's like, well, I have all these deadlines and you know what? I'm going to actively tell it that I don't care by painting a different thing.
No, it's driving away with your middle finger out the window.
Kind of,
your responsibilities. Where you're like,
but it also, in doing that too, it's like it also showed me like, well, wait a minute, you do enjoy painting, you do enjoy these things.
Because you're still painting.
It did. I mean, I wasn't painting them. I didn't look at it and go, oh, what would really get my juices going? I was just like, no, you know what? I don't care. I'm just going to paint these. So it's kind of like an angry thing, and then working through it, I was like, this is why I've been so mad. It's like I've just been crushed by deadlines, and this is me actively saying, I don't care about my deadlines. Whatever gets done, gets done.
Yeah.
And that,
well, what I was going to say, like, really, it sounds really simple, but to get out of a painting slump, just paint something.
Yeah.
Just paint something.
Yeah.
Find something.
Especially
somewhere.
something that
we all have something sitting somewhere.
So many somethings.
So many something.
Well,
just put paint on something.
Right.
And just start there. It doesn't paint something like that doesn't have to do with an army scheme.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to do with
a
unit on the table. It doesn't have to do with anything. Yeah. It's just a model to paint, and just put some paint on it. And that will kind of get those muscles going again and get those juices. You don't even have to finish it.
Yeah.
I used to have a really bad, not really bad, but it was really helpful in a lot of ways. But if I started a model, I finished it.
Yeah.
And I didn't start another model until that unit or that batch or whatever was done. I didn't have any work in progress models anywhere in my house.
Oh.
If I started something, it was done.
That's half my house is the work in progress model.
That's a lot of people. So, but then I would grind on something for a month.
And you get tired.
Should have only taken me a week
Yeah.
because it's just like every time I paint, it's like walking through quicksand.
Yeah.
Versus I'm going to put that to the side and I'm going to knock out this over here.
Yeah.
And I'll be more energized, more in the groove. I can come back to that with a new set of eyes or something.
Yeah.
And then just through painting, you get out of the slump.
And you can do different types of painting too. So like maybe you're airbrushing and you're doing a bunch of airbrushes and you get a bunch of base coats down. You're like, okay, I'm going to switch to brush painting for a while. I haven't done that in a while. And then you start to do brush painting for a while until you kind of get tired of that. And then you can switch to, I'm going to build some models now. So I do that a lot. I like to bounce around just because if I have to grind on too many models in one stage more than too long, it just gets to be too much. I get bored with it really easily.
Yeah.
So
there's kind of two, like, to get a little Santa Cruz bohemian up in this, it's enjoy the art for the sake of the art.
Sure.
Man. But it is a creative endeavor. So while it may have started with Brian's rage, it was, reconnecting to that joy of creative expression, which on some level it is. And that's all fine and good if you actually like the hobby.
Yeah.
And one of the points I think that was great that you brought up is there are some folks who just don't enjoy painting. Yeah. So if you're somebody who doesn't enjoy that part, I mean, it's always going to be a chore, but then how do you get out of a slump if that's you? And it's
contrast
something
paints.
Maybe. I've played with them. I kind of like them, honestly.
I think they
have a place.
I think they for sure have a place.
Yeah.
But if you are somebody who it's mechanical, Brian, you kind of mentioned it. Mark, you just kind of mentioned it. I think we've all touched on it. For me, one of the great slump breakers, so great, in fact, that my wife and I use this as like a life mantra thing now, is I need to empty my painting desk. And it's literally like any of us who hobby and you enjoy the hobby, you have your tools and your paints and there is stuff everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It is. I mean, you are actually, I'm impressed with how orderly yours are.
Mine
was a little messy today.
I send pictures of my desk to Colin just to be a jerk.
Yeah.
Because I know how triggering my desk is to him.
Dude, you are like a Cthulhu story where they're afraid of angles. Like everything is rounded off with paint
awesome.
supply. It's pretty incredible. Yeah. But I mean, I've got two separate areas and my one in the garage is real close to yours. Like there are times when I literally have to dust dirt and sand away from the last thing I was doing so that I can paint and not be like blowing sand and dirt on while so I can live in both worlds. But that notion of cleaning, like, put it all away. And when I say put it all away, I mean everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like wherever your hobby stuff lives, put it in the closet, say, and it's out of sight.
Mm-hmm.
All the paints go away. All the brushes get cleaned. They all go away. Everything goes away. And there's something in that it allows you to kind of reset the priority list because if you are a mechanical process person, that Kanban board or that project organizer that you use or whatever it may be, that this is the system and I got to get through this and the end goal is this army and these are the steps. That list can become so daunting, much like Brian's deadline list.
Yeah.
You've created your own. The chore list gets to a point where there's no real end in sight.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you can sit down and go 5 Space Marines, I'm going to build 5 Space Marines because it will be added to my list. And it actually kind of sounds like the least torture, if not fun, the least torture.
Yeah.
I'm going to paint this one thing that I built and when you're done with it, if you can do it, put it away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and then realize I don't have to. And it's amazing that term, I think, is ubiquitous in our hobby, and any aspect of it is well, I have to get, and you have to field, and you have to get the, no, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
There is no have to anywhere around our toy soldiers, nowhere at all. But that notion of just clean your desk, and what my wife and I will say, like in real life, is, you know what, my desk is overloaded and I need to clean it. And it's just that notion of feeling overwhelmed. But I think that can be incredibly helpful for breaking a slump.
Absolutely.
You know, and if you don't ever come back to it,
then it wasn't important to begin with.
Yeah, then that's okay too. Like,
if you love it, let it fly away.
Well,
if the love is returned.
I'm loving the bohemian. I'm going to let my hair down.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I do the exact same thing. As interesting as you were talking, but I call it clearing the mechanism.
Yeah.
You know, you just clear the mechanism, and you clear. I take everything off the desk. I clean the desk. I get all my paints back. Brian's like, you do what?
It is so cute that you guys do housework to like get
I've
yourself
seen you
back
do
in
it.
gear.
I saw you do it once.
But I'll go
and
through
I freaked you out.
I do it once, just like washing my car.
Could you find
once
any
a year, whether it needs it or not?
Could you find anything after
No,
you
I
did
think
it?
he texted me swearing like the next day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll clear the mechanism after any time I finish a project or anytime I finish a unit.
Clean everything out.
I just clean everything off and I reset it. And I used to have, because I got really overwhelmed with commissions. Really overwhelmed. I took on too much. I ran out. I started having less and less time at night because the kids stay up later. And
I don't think I was helping because I was like, so how are those commissions coming?
No, it's fine. Right. I mean, that's accountability, right? I mean, I should be accountable for that. So, but I just had less time than I usually did, coupled with just taking on too much and moving and all this stuff. And I was looking around my environment and I said, okay, so I have like a Trello board that I track stuff on and I'm active on. I have a Kanban board that I track stuff on that I'm active on. And hanging right in front of me off my lamp is a list of all the commissions that I need to do. So every time I look up from painting, I see this list of stuff that I haven't done yet. And it was just crushing. It was just absolutely crushing. And so I typed up a new list and I folded it in half and I put it between my paint racks. So I'm not looking at it. It's not sitting there staring me in the face going, gee, that's really great that you're painting. You still have all this other stuff that you need to do. And well, when you finish that, look at all this other stuff. And this Kanban board, I mean, that thing just looks like, a shotgun blast of stuff I haven't done yet. And, and I just deleted the apps. Just boop, gone. I have a list of stuff that I owe, of work that I have to do for other people. That's it. I don't track every model in my army. I don't track all that stuff anymore. And it was so freeing to and literally just scrape the desk clean, got all the work in progress stuff. I sold a bunch of stuff. I was just like, I need to purge. I need to reset this whole deal. And I did it. And I was like, okay, what is the one thing I really want to do? I really want to make a killer display board for Boise Cup. And I had all these, I should be doing commissions. Yes. And I was like, but creatively, I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to work with foam and this and terrain and integrate it all and do all this stuff and do the basing. And I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to take a little time for me, for my hobby health. And I'm just going to do this thing that I've always wanted to do. I've never given myself permission to do. And I freaking did it.
Yeah, you did. It's a big thing. You made a big thing, man.
And it's cool. And I love it. And and it reinvigorated. I'm ready to go, man. Boise Cup's tomorrow. My stuff's going to be ready to go. And after that, I'm ready to hit the ground running. I got a lot of projects I'm looking forward to. And it really just went from this kind of suffocating blanket of responsibility, like Brian was saying. Except instead of a Poxwalker, I did a 6 square foot display board.
Sure.
Well, and also too, though, within this, Joe, we're both educators, right? So when you're working with students with ADHD, one of the things they tell them to do is sometimes people will get stuck looking at the blinking cursor of doom when they're writing an essay.
Sure.
Right? So they're looking at that. They're thinking about the entirety of the project. And what you do with students like that is you have them really focus on short, chunked out things. And so even those Poxwalkers, it seems really random that I picked those things. Those were the last 4 primed ones that I had from when I'd worked on that army earlier this year. So for me, I was actually checking off the last of a thing.
Right.
There's a lot more unpainted stuff that I have for that army, but sometimes it's just
sell it.
Those big well no, there's But I mean, sometimes your big giant list isn't going to go away. I mean, you can write it, fold it in half, or do whatever it is. But sometimes it's just going, you know what? I'm going to tackle this one little part of it and knock it out. And then a lot of times that will just, I mean, for me, I mean, this is just, you have to know how you're motivated. And for me, completing these short little tasks are the things that bleed straight into the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. This room, now you guys, this is the first time you've been in this room. This is where we're recording, and this room is different. So I actually pulled everything out of this room. It used to be a darker color. I painted the entire room. I put everything back, and I think I sold maybe half the models that just weren't built. And it was very, very freeing. It's kind of what you said, Jody. It's just clearing the deck. It's like, it's all, so like I brought some stuff back in the room. I still have to get rid of some more stuff, but I'm like, oh, okay, now I feel like I can do something. Because when you just have stuff it just becomes kind of overwhelming. It becomes crushing. When I was in college, and there was it was a test deadline. I had a test on Thursday, and I'd be studying for it a couple days before, maybe the day before. But I always said to myself, it's finals week. By Thursday at 4:00, whenever my last test was, regardless of what happens, it's all over.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's going to be over. There's going to be an end to this thing.
Right.
And at some point, it's going to be over. And if I have to make some adjustments on the fly, like Brian, you talk about your list, I'm sure that you knew you had you could come here, you could sort of paint some more. Or worst case scenario, you just bring some other stuff and just go with it. I mean, it was a deadline, but you could make adjustments to it. And it was fine. You could have done something there.
Right.
So now, we talk about breaking out of painting slump, learning a new technique, like you talked about, building a display board, painting a miniature for fun, rather than just having a specific plan, kind of like a Poxwalker, which even though you hate the unit,
right?
But it was for fun.
But they are fun models to paint. Like I've painted precisely one, but I'm like, oh, this is rad. I get this.
I feel like it'd be awesome to paint, especially with contrast.
No interest. No interest in playing.
Yeah. And then just sort of setting things aside and kind of resetting for sure.
No.
There's also just a process. Slow and steady usually works better. So the sooner you start, and like the 1 hour a night's really popular because it's like habits. 1 hour. It's a habit. It's something you do, and regardless, even if you're not always working towards a specific goal, at least you're just painting. You're still painting.
Yeah, and any time spent painting is time that's you're working towards that goal. Yeah. So for me, because I paint a lot of models, and I spend a lot of time painting. But sometimes you just have to sit down and paint. You just have to get through those stages. You just have to grind it out. And sometimes it sucks. Yeah. And because, because Brian and I are actively commission painters and Jody's
recovering.
I'm hoping to join Jody's ranks here soon enough, but
it's beautiful over here.
But like I have to paint these models.
Yeah.
Like, I have obligations to people. I mean, it's not life or death, but I have obligations to people. Mm-hmm. So you just sit down and you just, at a certain point, it is a job.
Yep.
And you just have to do your job.
It's also too, you are okay taking slight detours. That's what you've done.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's what Brian was saying too, is in that trusting the process, understand that you're in a process and you've set reasonable goals.
Right.
Like I'm not going to use the term, but small chunks that you can attain, little teeny, I know what's coming. I can get these guys, like I said, 5 Marines, 5 Poxwalkers, whatever it is. But that it's trust that process that you'll get through those 5 and then that builds momentum.
Well, if you're forcing yourself to sit and paint, what I always do, I mean, this is what I do on any model that I approach. Usually I'll find whatever the largest surface area is. Mm-hmm. I'm going to paint that. If it's like a 5-stage process, I'm going to go through and do that to completion. Mm-hmm. And if I don't feel like, if I have to pull myself through it, you know what? I got something done. I don't have to paint anymore. But if I get to the end of that and I go, you know what? I did the robes on this thing. Now I can go through and do the armor plates.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to do that. Like if you just pick one particular color combination or something on the model, do that all the way through. For me, again, it's those short little things. And it, like I said, sometimes I'll get to the end of that and say, I really don't want to paint tonight. Well, you know what? I got all these robes done on this Seer Council. I'm good to go.
Yeah.
That was literally the other night with my Demon Prince, because I messaged you and was like, man, I do not want to paint this thing. I'm over it. I'm sick of looking at his stupid tiny wings that aren't tiny enough. And then it was like 2 hours later, I was like, oh, I'm pretty much done.
Yeah.
And it was literally like, all right, I'm just going to pick out the teeth.
Right.
Okay, now
just
I'll
going to shade the armor plates.
Yeah.
Just do this. Just do the wings. Yeah.
In an extreme way, a painter I used to interact with a lot who that's his business and the whole deal. He's one of those guys. When he's doing a large batch paint to keep from burning out, and this sounds really counterintuitive, and he's talking about, the example he gave was he was painting 50 Imperial Guard in one sitting, as in they got to be done today.
Yeah.
50 Guard today. And he said, try not to hold any model longer than 30 seconds. And how you do that is exactly what you're talking about, Brian, is pick it up, right boot, inside of right boot, 50 times, outside of right boot, 50 times, inside of left boot, 50, outside of left. And it's just pick it up, put it down, pick it up. And when I'm doing assembly line, I'll do that. It's left to right. I'll go, okay, this one thing, move it to the right, one thing, and just keep repeating, finish that one step. And what's weird is because you're moving, so quick on one little brush stroke at a time that you're always getting something done.
You're doing the same muscle movement over and over again. You're literally pulling the same
that
thing.
one focused thing in a really extreme way, but you're constantly going, cool, all the boots are done. All the boots are done.
You don't have time to look up.
No. Yeah. And it keeps, and it's a false micro goal, if you will.
Interesting.
And it works.
I'm going to have to try that.
Freaking works.
Yeah. It's usually when they say if you've got a long, a lot of steps in a process, it's great to focus on like, I just accomplished this for the first half. I just did this. I did this. I did this. And then when you start to get past the half and the 75%, you go, oh, look what I just accomplished. You can look back. So you look very, very closely at what's next. And then you can look back after you get to a certain point and go, wow, I did all this stuff. And it kind of pushes you to the end.
Yeah. Right. For me, the payoff is painting that black base rim.
The victory lap, I just heard it called.
I absolutely freaking love that.
That is the best, one of the best parts of miniature painting.
It is. It's
painting that
easy
black
to paint,
rim on the
and
base.
I love it. I love it.
And you just put it down and you go,
it's done.
And like, so really for me is what you just said. Or what Mark just said, I need to get to that like 75, 80% finished part. And I'm like, boom, I'm like charging
your
through
home stretch.
The finish line.
Yeah.
I mean, but that like 50 to that like 40% to like 75% stretch has been the hardest part for me lately. And I really like what you said. I'm going to have to try that because it's that going in and picking out, well, I'm going to do all these furs. I'm going to do all this gold trim. Or if I just do the left shoulder trim on everybody, then I do the right shoulder trim on everybody. Yeah. Instead of like sitting there and trimming out one model, putting it down, pick up, trim out.
Because inevitably, if you do the trim, like for me, it's like, okay, I'll do colors, which I usually do. It's like, okay, their boots are this color. They have a pouch that's this color. Right. I'll miss one of those 5 things that I have to paint on every single one of them. So I have to go back and check it.
And that's literally where this painter said it came from, was getting done with painting 100 something. And someone's like, you missed that thing. He was like, damn it. He's like, now I can't. There's no way to miss it.
Because I'm doing the one thing.
That's fascinating.
Brilliant.
I'm going to try that.
I will too. That's awesome.
It's great.
Yeah.
Now, you could also burn out on playing the game. Now, I don't know, Brian, you guys get burnt out on?
Oh, amen.
Because you're playing, you could for casual players, right?
But now,
narrative.
No, it's casual.
Yeah,
we're still at clothing mandatory, but it's casual.
Yeah, that's nice.
Shirt optional.
Nice.
When Loopy's around.
Nice. So, the game can be sometimes just a bit much, like especially when you're trying to play competitive. But either in general, I mean, if you're playing a game and you're not enjoying the game, that's like the worst experience because it's a 3.5 hour commitment. 4 if you're playing, kind of at a low. It's a bummer to sort of play along and go, I'm just not enjoying this. Yeah. And it's happened. I think it's happened with like that game against. It wasn't anything Michael did. It was just, I just didn't know what was going on. I just didn't feel in control and it just felt not fun.
And then you just got smushed.
I got smushed as well. Yeah, for sure. But.
Which makes it less fun.
There's just a lot
like, what is going on here? Oh, I pulled all my models. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm dying. Right. How many attacks do those Alberts have? Are you kidding me? What strength are you? What do you mean you're winning on 2s? It's a knight. How does this happen?
Yeah, they're good at that.
Yeah.
As I'm learning.
Delete. You're just like, oh, God.
But the game also changes a lot too. Yeah. And I get kind of tired of I know some people really look forward to them. At this point, though, we've gone through enough cycles. I'm like, I'm just sort of tired of. I almost cringe when I see new rules coming out. I have to admit. I mean, I'll get over it. I'll be fine. But like, even just the last batch of the Vigil stuff, I'm like, we need more rules. More rules. It feels like it, especially when you're trying to become, you're competitive. It just becomes kind of overwhelming at some point.
You don't even play Chaos.
And I don't even play Chaos. But I have to know about Chaos when you play competitive. See, this is the problem. Yeah. So, I don't know. Tell me about your...
I heard the C word a lot.
Chaos.
No, competitive.
Yeah,
I keep hearing the word competitive, and I'm telling you right now, if you are playing competitive and you're burnt out because you're like, God, I need to know the ins and outs of every single new thing that's coming out, and I got to stay ahead of, you know, chasing the meta, blah, blah, blah. Just play some regular games.
That's exactly.
I will argue that, though. Yeah. As a fellow narrative or whatever casual player, garage player, the problem is, and it was something you said earlier, Colin, really brought this home for me, is you can't unknow something.
Yeah.
And once you're, and I, in a weird way, this is great because it's allowing me to frame something I was bitter about in a much more positive way. I'm thankful that 6th and 7th, especially because my orc army was at its zenith in 5th.
Yeah.
And then 6th and 7th were such a dumpster fire for orc players that I mean, I just didn't enjoy those. And I did move on to new armies, which is great. And Colin, that's a byproduct, is the most glorious example of that.
Yeah.
I love that's my fault. But it's that notion of I can't unknow what this used to do. I can't unknow how the game used to work. I can't, and even not in used to sense, if you're competitively playing a lot, you can't unknow that this would be a more optimal move, or that would be a more optimal move. Yeah. Or I could, so I think it's doable, but I think it takes a very concerted effort on the part of the gamer to say, okay, I am literally just, instead of looking at this in a mechanical sense, I'm going to go, what is the story part I like?
Right.
And can I actively steer away from, more Terian,
right? Or even just, if I string this unit along here to catch this aura, and then charge over here to wrap up this unit, and then pop this strat, I can do all these things, and you may be playing in like not that minutia oriented environment, and people are like, dude, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like,
just play your thing, man.
Just play like, why are you being so precise?
Yeah.
But you can't just forget the strats or just say, well, I'm going to take this unit. It's garbage, but we're playing a casual game. So I'll take it.
It's also hard
it makes it harder.
It's hard to unknow the stuff that's good too. So what happens when I've played casual before with other competitive players, and we was like, oh, let's just play a casual game. Yeah. Usually, we will neuter the list just enough so that it is not ridiculous. But there's always a couple little spicy things in there.
There's always
and because we know
hanging out,
we know what's spicy. I can look over there and go, you're including about 2 or 3 more spicy things than I included. So we're not on the. So there's a communication back and forth. You kind of have to happen. And Brian, this is. Sometimes it's just better not to go down this rabbit hole because then it's hard to unknow. I think that's
why. Bring on Loon Curse.
That is why Age of Sigmar was so fun, because I'm like, I don't know what's good.
Yeah,
this
clue.
is exciting. I have no idea.
Clue.
Let's just roll with it.
And that's how you get back to that origin of gaming type thing, like you were saying.
But are you concerned that 40K and playing competitively is the main way you engage in the game? How long is it going to take before the C word starts creeping into AOS?
Well, I get that fixed in 40K.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. You're saying eventually every game, if you have a competitive mindset, you will start to drift toward that.
Because you're going to run into something that's going to curb stomp you.
Yeah.
And you're going to go, oh God, I can't unsee that. And I can look at my list and figure out what can actually make this thing not work.
Oh, that's a good point.
Against them. So this is where I don't compartmentalize 40K that much, where it's like I only play it one way.
Yeah.
Because I will, I don't play against competitive players as much, but I will do a game occasionally, like, okay, sure, I'll play it. Bring your whatever thing. Yeah. And I don't know. It also too is just, I don't mind losing a well-fought game.
Yep.
So if I run into something, if I run into something and I'm like, I don't know what that is, I don't understand what just happened to me.
Right.
I'll try to figure out what happened. And if it really bothers me, I'm going to figure out what I need to do to make that work. Cause I don't think there are that many armies that just have zero answer to any given problem.
Yeah.
But you have to balance that with, how do you like to play? Like if it's like you and you're like, look, I like to charge things and do whatever. And your answer is to take something that doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Well, then, if you enjoy charging and doing that more than you enjoy playing the game in a way that doesn't work for you but allows you to win, accept the loss.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. But I just haven't run into this, like I don't know. I just haven't run into that.
No, and I think our group does a couple things really well that prevent or help mitigate that issue.
Yeah, that's true.
Our group is very willing and almost excited about. That, like, I found this unit that because all we can go with this is our household meta.
Sure.
Yeah.
But from past experience, I also know it's a meta is a meta. It doesn't matter how hyper competitive or how garage gamer it is.
Yeah.
If it is, 15-year-old me paying his buddy in the garage, but my buddy's constantly stomping me with his whatever.
Yeah.
That's still the meta of that environment.
All metas are local.
Right. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
And our group, I will say, people are very quick to go, I ran this 3 times. It curb stomped you all 3 times.
Yeah.
You don't enjoy, as I'm teaching my buddy with my sister's thing, and I'm just relearning my sister's out of the, the chapter approved thing.
Mm-hmm.
The arcoflagellants are, holy jeez, especially against Gene Stealer cult who don't have range shooting.
Yeah.
They just make things go.
Oh, they're so tasty.
Absurd. I was like, wait, this can't be right. And then I looked at it again. I was like, nope, that's how many attacks they have. And
that's what they do.
Oh, you have a 6-up save? I'm sorry.
Yeah. And
bye.
And I mean, and so we got to a point where like, I'm not fielding those anymore. Brian's goal with Death Guard in quarter 1 was, okay, I'm not going to field Poxwalkers anymore because it's just not fun.
Yeah.
Were they effective?
Oh, yeah.
Unquestioningly.
Yeah.
So there is an element of approaching a game and you need to change it up. Like change up how you're approaching the game, and maybe if you have regular opponents, ask your regular opponents like, hey, what are the not fun units? I know they're super spicy, but I'm not going to play with that. And then how do I build around it?
Yeah. And I think kind of what you talked about is you talked about having a couple games to get to that point. Maybe the idea is, when you play, it's okay if you're a competitive player to play casually, but more on a semi-regular basis. So you're kind of working around that. To be able to kind of back into like, but I'm still have this casual streak, There's lots of units I'd like to take and maybe that's it. Maybe we just find a couple people, maybe it's a different group entirely you play and you say, okay, here's my units that I don't, I'm just going to try these things. They're fun. And I've always wanted to paint these. Maybe if the Aspect Warriors ever come out in plastic, I'm joking.
I had so much fun playing my Tzeentch Demon army.
Yeah.
Was it the best army? No.
No, it's fun.
But it was fun.
Yeah.
It had a little bit of shooting, had a little bit of movement. I wasn't charging anything and punched him in the face with an axe, but but then I started, but I play we moved here and play competitively because of people I like to hang out with. Yeah. Play competitively.
Yeah.
And that's my friends. My friends play competitively, so I play competitively.
You play with the friends, and whatever your friends play, that's what you find to play. Yeah.
And I've had some of the best games I've had have been the games that I've lost. So it's not the winning, but you don't want to get raffle stomped into the dirt either. So it's finding that balance of, and then finally for me turning that corner to be like, is this good? Is this list good enough not to just show up and get stomped? Is this fun?
Yeah.
Yes, it's fun. Is it good enough not to get stopped? Michael, what do you think? Oh, I think that's pretty good. Okay. It's good enough for me.
Yeah. I just don't want to, if that's true, even for Boise Cup, the list I'm taking is the list I know really well. I don't want to think too much about it. I've got other duties I'll be doing. Like I've got paint judging and things I'm going to be doing.
Yep.
I don't want to think too hard about it. If I win 3 games, I'm fine. If I won 2, I'd be a little bummed about it. But the list is strong enough and I know it enough that I could do it. However, could it be better? Could I have done more?
Right.
Yeah, but I don't have the time. I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
And actually, Sean in a previous podcast, he said his Battlescribe, he actually deleted all his lists on Battlescribe. That's like clearing the table for competitive lists. I'm like, that's a good idea. I'm totally going to do that.
Yeah.
Get rid of all of them. Just start all over again.
Yeah.
Let's move to the community because we haven't really talked about the community. I think we are all online and we interface with the community. And if we've been around long enough, we've been on forums and have been certain websites. There's a lot of long history of 40K community, and it can be just exhausting. And it's not even just a negativity, but you see a lot of the opinions repeated over and over again. You see a lot of the same jokes over and over again. You see a lot of the same memes.
I spilled my pot.
Yes. You see a lot of the same sort of...
good for you. I just post that every time I see it. I'm just like, really?
Great.
And your first urge was to not go, wow, is there a way I could just prevent that in the future? No, I need to post this online because...
It's the SpongeBob rainbow. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
But so that's it. It's not even just the things that are different. It's just difference of opinion, but there's just times when you're just the community can be much, too much.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a vocal minority that have a larger voice. There can be a mob mentality. I was listening to Jim Vessel talking on a podcast about his game with Jeff Robinson. It was streamed. And he was reading through the Twitch comments, and a lot of people are like, oh, he did this, and oh, hey, he's cheating here, and he's cheating there. People are actively looking for kind of like instances of cheating, and both Jim and Jeff were like, what are you talking about? I was there. There was none of this. Nobody was doing any of this.
We were playing the game, like they talked about something, but they're not mic'd up.
Yeah.
They like talked about something, and then like they were just playing the game, and it was a good game. It was a clean game. And,
yeah.
but
people,
the Twitch stream was just like,
there's a mob mentality in some respects.
You know, the PGA stopped taking phone-in golf tips because of stuff like this.
Stuff like that. There's also just constant criticism, and there's also constant complaints. And then there's the complaining about complainers. And then there's the complaining about I will complain about complainers. There's the inception.
I reserve the right.
There's the inception. It's like you've reached this weird thing of like people complaining about other things, and the level of discourse becomes kind of a bit much. Now, I will say the Independent Characters Facebook group does a very good job of having a nice back and forth discussion. There have been some threads that are kind of heated, but heated is just that there's just passionate opinions on both sides. And they've been able to kind of navigate stuff.
Some people just get memed into the ground. I mean, it happens.
Like who?
Like like Jody, for one. But
I just like to make, apparently that's my goal in life, is to make the people angry when I speak into a microphone. So I forget people have feelings sometimes about this. But no, I think that the independent characters
actually.
That one. That was recent. So I'm not going there. No, the independent characters does a good job in their community, but it's heavily moderated. That was the word Yeah, it is heavily moderated, and they're very vocal about this is why we're here. And I think that's for all of the things that podcast does and that Carl does. Carl is very conscientious about, it's about being positive about the hobby.
Yep.
And I think the community part, that to me is where I always go back to. And there's a lot of ways to community burnout. Mm-hmm. But for me, that's always been the reset, or the enjoying it again, is where can I go to be positive about it?
Right.
And tough thing with the community, whether it is spilled pots of paint or memes or whatever it is, that it's so easy to fall in line, or the mob mentality, to become part of the mob and be negative about it. I mean, I certainly have plenty of axes to grind, as we all do, with whatever's going on in the hobby at any given time. But ultimately, it's interesting. I went to a painting class, Banshee was teaching, and he's an international incredible painter. My takeaway from the class was nothing to do with color theory, how light plays on surfaces, any of those things. Was he said something early on, and Aaron Lovejoy was attending the class, and he said to Aaron, he goes, if Aaron's unhappy painting, he does Miniature Monthly, and they recently changed the name, but Guild Painting Services. Mm-hmm. He is a professional painter. That's his job, Aaron Lovejoy. Yeah. He says, if Aaron's unhappy, tough. It's his job. If I'm unhappy teaching this class or painting a model, too bad. It's my job. For all of you in the audience, if you're not happy, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the community, I think that's the piece for me. That's my reset, is going, how do I make sure either I'm being positive, or how do I go connect with people that I can rant to safely, or I can experience community. And I think for me, the go-to move is get offline.
Yeah.
Stop for a minute with online interacting.
Yeah.
And either drop into an individual chat with Colin and these guys.
Yeah.
Or where we can really
just
rant.
Get the pitchforks and torches.
I mean,
it's a safe space to rant. Yeah.
And we all know that, like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Everybody had their cigarette. We're all done with our rant.
Yeah.
We're cleansed.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to it.
Mark's my screenshot guy. I send screenshots to Mark.
Yeah.
Dude, did you?
Oh, you
seriously?
inherited that.
Congratulations. Not those.
But it's also just, the opinions are subjective. And, when you're arguing a point online, it's basically just because you're coming from different experiences. And so, and you're right about just all your experiences in 40K are your local experiences. Mm-hmm. And so if I go read about something that's overpowered or something that's dumb or this thing that you should have this opinion about, if I've never seen it, if I don't play it, why am I having an opinion on it? Its opinion's being informed by somebody else. Right. There are lots of people that have lots of opinions about the game and Games Workshop that are basically things they have picked up from other people. Like their entire some experiences basically have been absorbed from online chatter, which I'm like, I find scary. Like, but it's true. You see a lot of the same points repeated over and over again.
It's an echo chamber, yeah.
It is an echo chamber. Yeah. So, there's certain websites you go on and you start to read the comments and it's like, just for the heck of it, why did I do that? I don't know why I did this. I'm going to go out. I'm getting off this comment stream right now.
Oh, and part of it is just for me has been like just not commenting.
Yeah.
Like if I see something and I'll wait and if it like comes back up in my feed and I still feel like a certain way about it, I'll go through phases where you're just like, oh, and you just like rifle off a comment and then it's like this back and forth. And then all of a sudden I've spent like 40 minutes going back and forth with somebody about something that doesn't affect either one of us at all.
No.
And I'm like, what on earth am I doing with my time and energy right now?
Yeah.
Versus, like Jody was saying, finding a thread or seeing something and being like, oh, that's really cool. Okay, I'm going to comment that it's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell that person, hey, that's fantastic work. Or, hey, I really like what you did there.
Yeah. Being encouraging, basically, Yeah,
or just putting that positivity out there. But for me, like, a lot of times I find my initial reaction is kind of sarcastic.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of defer to GIFs and, I want, try to be funny or something, but it's like, is that how I want to interact? Mm-hmm. Do I want that back and forth? Do I want to spend that time and energy? Is that what I want to put out there?
Yeah.
And so I try to make a conscious effort to just be kind.
Be kind.
Whenever you see that super heated exchange, I mean, in academia, there's something called Sayer's Law. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea behind it is that the passion put into any given topic or argument is usually inversely proportional to its actual importance. Or sometimes it's rephrased as infighting in academia is so vicious because there's so little at stake.
Yep.
So people get so fired up about these things, and you really need to ask yourself, to what end?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This isn't like a SART thing, but it's like, if you're letting that person, somebody repeats, oh, this person who does airbrushing classes says that the Patriot Extreme 105 isn't a good detail brush. And you're like, well, I've used it. I know it's a great airbrush. I'm going to comment. I know they're just regurgitating what so-and-so said.
The Iwata. Get an Iwata.
You're giving...
I'm kidding.
Sure.
I'm kidding. But you're
right.
I'm
about to text Jody.
If somebody says that and you are actually giving that person power.
Yeah.
By getting bent out of shape about it, because who cares what,
what's
Jim Jablonski, in East Jesus, Texas, thinks about this particular airbrush. Like, nobody cares.
It's the idea that this person's living rent free in your head. Like they're there for no reason, but you're letting them occupy that space.
To what end?
I will tell you, Brian, that you're sharing that Sayer's Law with me was incredibly empowering. That notion of it's heated because it doesn't matter. There's no
doesn't
stakes.
actually matter.
And that you can safely engage and be all fired up. And understanding that, and then also, a little self-compassion. I'll give myself permission when I'm like, nope, I'm going to go there. Mm-hmm. But it's conscious.
Right.
When I do it, if you see me ranting online at something, I'm giving myself I'm letting this person freeload on my couch for a little while.
Yeah.
And when I decide I'm done, out they go, and on with my day I go.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it is fun to write about, my space orc should have 17 attacks and they shouldn't have, cool, you like them, do it.
Yeah.
But know that you're doing it.
Yeah.
And let it go and then default back to positivity.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
In the fluff, an intercessor sergeant would kill a whole squad of orcs.
I think fluff arguments, lore arguments are the most silly. Like, who's the strongest Primarch? I'm like, I don't know. Superman? Right. What does it matter? It's all fictional universes at this point.
It's Angron. It's okay.
Yeah.
No, it's Vulcan. See,
Nobody
Nick
cares.
Kime on a... I know.
cited your source, though. The English teacher in me was like, goodness.
The other thing I like to do is I like to find informative media. There's a lot of media that's just ranty stuff, and I like to just look for stuff that's informative.
Yeah.
I have a couple sources that I like to, like YouTube videos and things, and I like, I like watching painting videos. Let me watch a little painting video. That's a nice little way to sort of, or I'll watch a little bat rep, or I'll watch somebody talk about certain things, and just informative content, or I'll go to the Games Workshop page, and just something that I don't necessarily think it has to be positive, because there is sometimes I feel that some of it's a little too. There's a little bit.
Everything is awesome.
There's a little bit smiley
for sure.
There's a little smiley going on. You're like, okay, it's not perfect. Come on, guys.
Yeah, as a purveyor of smiles in my podcast life, that is absolutely that there is a conscious effort there.
Yeah,
so, and I think that's a fair, because there are times when I just want to be angry. Yeah, and I do,
and that's okay.
But like you said, with especially with the Facebook page, Carl's really good about saying, hey, that's a valid point. There are a lot of forums, there are a lot of outlets for that kind of discussion.
Yeah.
This particular Facebook group is just not one of them.
Yeah.
Well, but I will say that I've actually seen some nice back and forth. And the larger the group grows, and to me, I kind of enjoy it. I enjoy the discourse back and forth because I can see that. And I think sometimes when it's all positive, it's all great, and it's all silly, dad jokey stuff, you're just like, okay, come on. But then you get a little bit like, oh, okay, there's a disagreement here. This is cool. This is interesting.
No, and that's encouraged. That is encouraged. Just do it in a grown-up way.
And then somebody flies off the handle and like the band hammer falls, and or I'll get a private message from a Don saying, "Hey,
sure.
Well, do
you have to post that many gifs in one comment section?"
It is your go-to.
Just for the record, I've literally gotten 0 messages from a Don. But again, I tend to just go, to what end? Walk away.
Mark, I think you brought up a great point, though. The informational material is a great. Let's look at some facts.
Sure.
Crazy time, but there are facts. There are objectives. You can learn you were telling me on the drive up, and I already forgot about the guy who gives great information that everybody cites, but nobody gives him credit for it.
Eric from Variance Hammer.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
It is.
Yes.
I was joking with Jody, and I said it when he was on our show. I was just like, Eric is like the band that other bands that actually have fans go to watch, because they're like, God, that's so amazing you do what you do. And then they go do covers of terrible stuff, and everybody shows up for that. But it's like Eric's stuff is just like, it's such great food for thought. It's a way to engage with the hobby in a different way.
Yep.
And it isn't complaining about things. I mean,
statistical analysis is pretty dispassionate.
No, but I mean, he'll put.
But he has opinions about.
He does. He gives great context. But like, so in the last
informed
edition,
opinions.
Yes.
Well, in the last edition, one of his great articles I remember that really stood out was people were complaining about Tau. Oh, when I play against Tau, they're so overpowered and this, that, and the other. And he's like, well, let's look at the tournament data. Let's look at it. And he was like. He ran through and he was like, they aren't any more powerful results wise than these other ones. And then what he went into was talking about, well, why is that? Why is there the perception that this army is not fun to play, or is overpowering? And then it came down to the way the interaction actually works.
There's interaction playing against Tau?
Yeah.
Well, the first 2 turns.
You're totally triggering Colin right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm kidding.
I'm going to step away and go to my happy space.
But I mean, it's an informative piece, and it gets you to really think about. Sometimes you get so fired up and you let the hate wheel grind on one particular part of the thing, and this is just terrible. And if you listen to other people that are only talking about, this is just terrible and it's just awful because it's terrible because it's really awful and terrible, you're just going to keep the hate wheel accelerator going, and it's going to become a bigger problem than it actually is.
Yeah.
Right.
So just the thing you're reading is just reinforcing what you already think. You're wasting your time.
Yeah.
You're just talking to yourself in a circle.
Yeah.
Through other people's comments.
Yeah. And
go find something informative that actually does anything for you.
Or challenges, in a way that makes sense. Yeah, for sure. All right. Let's take a break. Let's hear from our sponsor, Trader A. If you're like most Warhammer players, you own a ton of models. At one time, you had big plans for these models, but now they just kind of sit, gathering dust, unused and unloved. It's time to clean out your closet of shame. Visit TraderA.com and get cash for your used models. Trader A is run by Captain A, someone who's been in the community a long time and has done a lot to grow the hobby. He's also a personal friend of the show. Unopened boxes, models on a sprue, half-built models, primed, painted, even bits have value. The process is simple. Send him a list of what you have. He'll send you a quote. You pack it up, send in your stuff, and he'll get you cash. You can shop around, but you're going to find that TraderA gives you 40% more than the other guys. You want it quick? You want to get rid of it? Visit TraderA.com. Get cash to buy the stuff that you really want. TraderA.com. Sell your models and get your cash quick and easy. All right, and we're back. So the thing is, all of 40K, the game is pretty diverse. There's a lot of stuff you can kind of bounce around in. I don't know. I think maybe at some point, maybe nothing. Like you could wake up in the morning, you could read a website article, you could post on a Facebook thing, you could go to the website, you could, while you're at work, make, grind on lists on Battlescribe. You can get a game in at night. You can go to bed reading a Black Library novel after spending an hour painting. You could spend all of your free time doing 40K. And maybe at some point that just becomes just too much. Like you're sick of it. Like there's nothing is just sort of really doing anything for you. And it is supposed to be a hobby after all. I think it's probably okay to take a step back from the hobby completely.
Yeah. Encouraged.
Yeah. And maybe it requires getting another game. Maybe it requires finding something completely new. But, it's okay to take a step back from that. I think the thing you don't want to do is sell your collection unless you're really, if you get out the hobby completely, I would just set things aside. I wouldn't recommend just ditching the whole thing.
It's like 15 years later, you're going to be like, oh man, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I encourage thinning, not deleting.
Thinning, not deleting.
Thinning is very healthy.
Cutting some of the stuff that you don't care that much about.
Especially stuff that's still in boxes or stuff that's, I'm horrible about that.
Yeah, keep your painted models for sure.
I used to stockpile armies and it just, this guy.
I just recently sold my third edition Dark Eldar army. Because I'd mentioned on the show, I was like, I have it. I just haven't gotten rid of it because I painted it a lot. And I was like, I will sell it for mega cheap. And when I did, the unpainted stuff that I had, like the old Forge World Raven Fighter, I'm like, oh, no. For this price, you get all of it. It's all going to you.
Whether you want it or not.
And the money that I got for it was absolutely nothing. I mean, I could have gone.
And you've already spent that money since then. It doesn't matter.
I don't care. It was bringing me absolutely nothing but stress knowing that it was down there not doing anything. Somebody's going to get use out of it. Cool.
Yeah.
And if I use that money to buy another, to be honest, that money funded this trip to go play in the first GT I've played in at least a decade.
Playing an event is a lot of fun. And I think really when you get down to the hobby, we spend so much of our time by ourselves doing stuff, but so much of the fun is actually with somebody else going, oh, wow, that's a really cool model. Wow, you got a really cool model too. Hey, this is, that's the fun part about it.
Earlier today, we were sitting around and painting.
Yeah.
With other people. And it was something I haven't done in so long. And just sitting around. So we'll go and we'll sit and talk painting and we'll go have lunch or we'll go play a game. But when I was, 10, 11, 12, 13, we would hang out in my buddy's garage and we would sit around and we would paint and we would talk about the hobby and stuff. But painting was more of a, and like Jody, you said you go to your buddy's house and you guys would paint and hang out. And there was kind of a social aspect to that. So that's something that kind of rekindled that with Brian and I are sitting there hanging out and I'm able to say hey, I'm able to turn around and go, hey, how does this look?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh, maybe do some purple. Or Jody's able, curse his name, but he's able to say, if you did this, and I'm sure that by the time, I go to sleep at 1:00 in the morning tonight, finishing more Terian.
Yes.
It'll look a lot better than it would have if I had just, it may not occur to me to take a picture and send it to Jody and be like, hey, how does Mortarion look on this board? So that's something I really want to do more of. Is make it more of an in-person interactive thing.
Because that's actually the fun part.
Yeah, make your community experience a real social experience that you are,
and not just the gaming part,
and not a fake online one either.
Right. I mean, actual and those are valid, but really spend time with another human being, be it playing a game or painting, or go out to dinner, but with the intent of talking about whatever Black Library book you all read and have the narrative debate, but have it in person.
Yeah,
sure.
It's I've never had that experience. If I grab some of my gaming buddies and we go and interact, that I don't walk away from that being excited to do something new in the hobby.
Yeah.
I've never had that damage that experience. And if, I won't say never, if I've ever walked away from one of those, then I know it's time to put the toys on the shelf for a while and go experience something else. Go and explore one of my other hobbies for a while. Go do something else for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if that can't bring you joy, then, at the end of the day, for the majority of people listening, that's the payoff, is to face-to-face hang out with somebody and do this thing.
Yeah.
If that's not fueling you, then it is time to shelf some stuff for a while.
Yeah. And I think
that's a healthy slump to take. That's not a slump. No, I need a little hiatus. I need a little vacation for my vacation.
Yeah. Taking a break is definitely, that makes sense. And then, like you said, like that's the final thing. If you're not enjoying talking about it with somebody else, then literally, it's okay to take a break.
Yeah. If you're not enjoying the hobby, don't do the hobby. Yeah. It's a hobby.
But for sure. Prune your collection, but I would not, I really wish I'd have hung on to the very first miniature I painted.
God.
I really wish I still had that, because I would like to look at that and go, yeah, this is where my skill's gone. I think I have something, but I had already advanced my skill since then, but you keep things to remind you of the hobby itself and do the things you enjoy, obviously. But like I said, it's a social thing. Be part of a actual live face-to-face community. So,
yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that is it. That was good. That was good. Type of the slump. Breaking the slump.
Yeah. I feel my slump breaking as we speak.
Well, and we're going to be playing the Boise Cup tomorrow. So I don't know actually how we're going to do, but we'll see how that all works out.
We'll do something.
Yeah. It's awesome that you guys drove up, Brian and Jody. And maybe this would be, maybe this would be an annual thing. You'll see.
Hope so. I've already been talking to him about it.
Next year.
Well, we were joking that when I was up there and just like completely locked in the zone, I was like, wow, I only had to drive 3 states away.
Yeah.
In order to find my hobby mojo.
Right. So I told him he'd come a couple days early next year.
That's what I said.
Just paint his whole army.
Whole army, it's fine.
Just show up with boxes.
Sure.
Will you let us help then?
Yeah.
And we'll come on your show and I'll clip the sprues while no, I'm kidding.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We love to hear from our listeners, so please feel free to message us on Facebook or email us at thebattlehosts@gmail.com. If you'd like to support us, you can help us in a few different ways. You can tell your friends about us. You can like us on Facebook. You can leave a review on iTunes, which does help to boost our listening audience. Finally, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thebattlehosts. For as little as $1 a month, you can help us with the cost of running the show and staying engaged with the community. And if for $3 a month, you get access to our Discord chat where we discuss all things related to the hobby. So, thanks for listening to the Battle Hosts. Colin, you're going to say, remember to be a better gamer.
Remember to be a better gamer.
And then Brian, you're going to say, and build a better community.
And build a better community.
Great. Good night. Sorry, Jody, I didn't have anything.
Jody, you're going to sit there and pound sand. Get your
everything is awesome. 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 Everything is awesome.